Namaskar.
Namaskar.
It is a great pleasure to be participating in this meeting. India is intimately connected with the oceans. The Yajurveda says, Shamno Varunaha. Varuna is sea. Peace to us on the seas. Now, there is no Chinese Ocean. There is no Russian Ocean. There is no American Ocean. There is only an English channel, but there is an Indian Ocean that speaks of the great connection that India has with the oceans. 75 million square kilometers of the globe's surface is Indian Ocean. And India is blessed with a coastline of 7,500 kilometers, with several ports, 2 bays, one in the east and one in the west. It is like a pearl in the Asian continent. And our connection with the oceans is one of our greatest emperors is named Samudragupta. Samudra is ocean, and his name was Samudragupta. He ruled all over India. The Samudrin, that is Cochin, is called Jamarin, but his name was Samudrin. That's how we have been intimately connected with the oceans. Dr. K.M. Panikar, Sardar K.M. Panikar, the great patriot historian, he wrote a book, Geographical Factors in the History of India. The geography is such, on the north, the Himalayas, and all the three sides, the oceans, and this made India a seafaring nation. Pliny, a great historian, Roman historian, in the 1st century AD said that India is becoming the sink of the world's gold. In the 1st century AD, why does all the gold in the world come to India? Because India was an exporter over the oceans. And people had to pay to us in gold. And 25% of the world's trade and as much of the world's wealth was India's, even after the rapacious occupation of India for about 800 years by the northwestern hordes. Until the 1707, India was such a great, wealthy nation and a sea power. People think that the Westerners, a Western power was defeated by Asian power only in 1905. That was Japan defeating Russia. But in the early 18th century, Martanda, the king of Kerala, has defeated a Dutch navy at Kolachal. So it is all histories facts have been distorted. The first Asiatic victory over an European was in Kerala when the King Martanda did that one. Friends, India is blessed, as I said, 7,500 kilometers of coastline. You are a seafaring nation. The imperial Cholas from the coasts of Tamil Nadu and some people from the coasts of Andhra, the Coromandel and the Orissa coast, they went east. And the great Chola Empire, imperial Cholas, the Indian Ocean was a lake for them and for the Zomarin on the west. So such is the great history of India. And for us, we are blessed with an unsinkable career, that is Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Churchill called Malta during the Second World War an unsinkable career. And for us, it is Andamans and Nicobar which are the unsinkable career. The Malacca Straits, through which 55,000 ships pass every year. And 40% of the oil exported from one place to another place goes through that one, is a narrow strait. And that a jugular, if you have got control over that Malacca Strait, China, which depends upon its oil imports to pass through that one, the Himalayas in the east and the west can be defended by the Andaman and Nicobar Island if it is converted into an unsinkable carrier. That is one. India has recognized of late until 1958. It is a shame that we had only a British man as the commander-in-chief of our Navy as well as the Air Force and even the armed forces. When Jawaharlal Nehru was asked, why don't we have an Indian as the commander-in-chief of our army? He said, General Cariappa, he has no experience. That's why we are still doing with the British man. Cariappa shot back. He said, what experience did Jawaharlal Nehru have to become either the vice chairman of the Executive Council of the Viceroy or the Prime Minister of India? What experience has he got? It's a matter of Atma Vishwas and Atma Nirbharta and Atma Gaurav. That was it. Now, friends, India has, very recently, has exerted its power in the Indian Ocean. We are having Sri Lanka, we are having Seychelles, we are having Mauritius, we are having Maldives and Lakshadweep, besides Sri Lanka and Andaman. In all these, whenever there was a political disturbance, India had intervened, and that made China a rival to us. And China now is the world's second largest economy. By the year 2049, that is 100 years of the establishment of Mao Zedong's Communist China, it wants to have a GDP of 5 times of America, and the whole world order will be dictated by China. And China, in the South China Sea and in the Spratly Islands in the Pacific, everywhere it is clashing with the local powers, Philippines, Vietnam, and even Malaysia. Now, the Indian Ocean is becoming not a ocean of peace, but a ocean of contention. And India, to be true to its tradition and history, has to become a very great naval power. A very great naval power. We have done wonderful things. For example, India's independence was initiated by the rebellion of the Indian Navy in February 1946. That triggered the rebellion in the Air Force and in the Army. And on one side is the Indian National Army of Subhash Chandra Bose. So the Indian Navy triggered and supported what INA has done for India, and that led to ultimately the independence of India, as Attlee has agreed that it is not because of Gandhiji's 1942 or Satyagraha, this or that, etc. It is because the British could not depend upon anybody in India to maintain their power. So friends, Indian Navy has a glorious history stretching over 2000, that is even before, during the Roman Empire. Periplus is a book in Greek which talks of India's great sea prowess. I am very, very glad that we have got a National Maritime Foundation, and Commodore Dr. Johnson is intimately connected with that, and there are so many other people also. And I had one of my seniors in the College of Engineering, Gindi, Rear Admiral Rambhadra Menon. I don't know whether he's still there or not. There is one Raja Menon or somebody, whether he's the same person or not. I'm very, very happy that Commodore Dr. Johnson Odakkal has agreed to give a talk on this occasion, and he has got another engagement. But I'm quite sure that in spite of Hanuman Tota being given away by Sri Lanka to China, Gwadar of Pakistan being given away to China, and Chabahar in Iran is a question mark for India. Indian Navy requires to be strengthened. We have to have nuclear submarines. we have to have aircraft, carriers, aircraft carriers. Nixon sent one aircraft carrier during 1971 war with Pakistan, and the Indian Navy sank the Ghazi, and the American carrier could not do anything to us. And during that war, we attacked Karachi. It was taken by surprise. Therefore, Pakistan Navy was absolutely finished or made impotent by the brave Indian Navy. I am very, very happy that we are celebrating this one. Much more requires to be done. The naval history of India has got to be written, and people must, Jawaharlal Nehru said, we don't want any armed forces. And even for the first 30, 40 years, there was no adequate attention to our armed forces. It was during P.V. Narasimha Rao and his look east policy that we are recalling the glorious past of India's maritime history and the Cholas and the Pandyans and others. Thank you very much. I thought we should be able to hear the great Prowess, the wonderful preparation of the Indian Navy, because there is a trouble in the South Sea, China, and we are part of the Quad, America, Japan, Australia, and India. So our force is extending up to that one, and we have got good agreements with Oman, Seychelles, and of course, our Mauritius, which is an Indian outpost in the Indian Ocean. Thank you. Dhanyavad.
Thank you so much, Chowdary ji, for your opening remarks. Now, friends, 5th of April, 1919, as most of us are aware, the first Swadeshi ship named the SS Loyalty, built by Scindia Steam Navigation Company Limited. That was the day, 5th April 1919, that ship traveled from Mumbai to UK. So that's the reason why 5th April is being observed as the National Maritime Day. That's a brief history, of course, that's one of the points. This is an annual celebration and annual event. Maritime Day serves as a reminder to all of us and its importance. Without the ability to travel by sea, world would be a different place. We all agree with that. Now, let us welcome Dr. Johnson, and he will speak more about it. So let us all celebrate this Maritime Day by expressing gratitude to all the seafarers. And on behalf of Pragna Bharati, I would like to do that before welcoming him by extending our gratitude to all the seafarers and maritime community. Now, before I actually ask him to speak on the topic, I'd like to, without taking a long time, just in a minute or so, I'd like to do a brief introduction of him. Dr. Johnson, Commodore Dr. Johnson Odakkal, is a Navy veteran, author, and internationally certified John Maxwell speaker, teacher, trainer, research guide, and growth coach. I understand that he is actually running his own institute as well on the same lines. His professional seafaring journey commenced in November 1982 aboard Training Ship Rajendra, and then served the Indian Navy for 34 years, superannuating in the rank of Commodore, with final assignment as Director Maritime History Society from 2015 to 2021. He authored the book titled Timeless Wake, The Legacy of Royal Indian Navy in World War II, and many scholarly works. He is a PhD in Civics and Politics from University of Mumbai, in addition to an MPhil and 2 MSc degrees. This is a brief intro about Dr. Johnson. Now, I request Commodore Dr. Johnson, sir, we welcome you to this evening session. Please, I request you to start this evening session.
Thank you, Chandrasekhar Garu. Jai Hind. I am really honored to be here. I'm very grateful to Padma Shri Hanuman Chowdary Garu for having taken the initiative to reach out to us and to all the distinguished dignitaries present. I won't take time. In fact, as I'm speaking, just allow me to share my screen. So I put a presentation basically so that, you can hear me and you can kind of look at something sometimes if an audio is okay. So I'm really delighted for more reasons than one to be in 2022 with the world opening up, at least India opening up, and to talk today about the National Maritime Day. Just before this event, I was with a group of young MBA shipping management students, and I said that 40 years ago, just 2 days short, on 3rd of April, I had the opportunity to begin my life from a student to be on the other side of the desk at a young age of 16 after my grade 12 to teach maths to grade 7 and 8. I have been a lifelong teacher. My father was a teacher from Sevagram. He was a participant in the Royal Indian Navy uprising. And I dedicate this entire talk in this session to what my father taught me, what I call him a Google on cycle, and he would take me around and teach. So he is my first guru, and to all my teachers and to teachers in our midst. So if I say something, and teachers can sometimes say some things which may not agree with us, just please forgive me for that. So I would like to start with, we have already been mentioned that 5th of April 1919, the SS Loyalty sailed. I took the apology as a teacher to correct one common myth. It was not the first Indian ship to do a mercantile voyage across. We have been sailing trading ships before the English or the others started trading. It was not even the first ship in the colonial period to undertake a voyage. That has happened from somewhere in Kidarpur or from the Calcutta side even many years. But what is not often emphasized is that SS Loyalty defeated every effort of the British through hook, crook, paying people, providing barriers, and the Scindia Steam Navigation Company succeeded against every odds to sail this ship across to London. So it is not important about the number one. The fact is, it was like cooking a snoot at the Brits, and you were able to reach London. After that, they did everything possible to derail Indian shipping. But we are where we are. So I celebrate every seafarer. And again, a common sentence is, we in the seafaring community are very strange people. It's very difficult for many people who don't sail to understand what we say, what we talk. We have our own language. We have our own methodology. But please pardon me if saline atmosphere of the oceans has reached me, and I am more passionate than what it understands. But I am proud to be, I always say this, I am proud to be an Indian who had the opportunity to sail the sea. I'm proud to be an Indian who was given the opportunity to wear the Indian uniform, Indian naval uniform, and I salute my nation for it. So, Admiral Jayant Ganpat Nadkarni, the 10th Indian Chief of Naval Staff, otherwise the 14th Chief of Independent India, mentioned that India began its maritime journey some 100 million years ago when a piece of land broke off from Gondwana and in a manner started sailing northwards across today what we know as the Indian Ocean, and like crashed into the Eurasian plate and created this geographical landmass we call India. Today, if you do an archaeological excavation in the Himalayas, you will be surprised to know there are fish and aquarian creatures found in that place to say this was created from the oceans. Okay, so this seafaring origin has gifted us a geography that is the most prominent feature in Hind Mahasagar, which is known as Indian Ocean, at least officially from 1515, when a Latin text carried a term called Oceanus Orientalis Indicus, or the Indian Eastern Ocean. You know, we in India did not require to name the ocean of ourselves because we were the most prominent seafaring community across this ocean. Others have recognized it and given us this phraseology of Indian Ocean, and I'm very proud of that fact. India is a region. So the Indian geology, what I talked about, shortly after it made, the geographical expanse of India has the amazing diversity of demographies, geologies, geographies, and communities that began with a maritime nature and culture. So we need to understand this maritime prowess, not simply from the last 75 years, but from much, much older. Now, I'm going to do some things which are a bit different from what is commonly known. If I share the entire story of maritime heritage of India, we will be here till midnight. And but I am not intending to do that. I would be very happy to have certain questions. Now, the history of the Indian Ocean, or what we call the Oceanus Orientalis, we just mentioned about it, is commonly known from the Indus Valley civilization. Do we realize that there is a deeper account of the Samudra Manthan? And this visual on the screen is not from India. This is in Bangkok airport of Thailand, who talk of the Indian connections, the Indian maritime connections, where they have depicted what is classically known as the churning of the oceans by the Suras and Asuras on the Mandar. But I, as a seafarer and a writer and a researcher, wish to present you a little different take. The ultimate Ratna or immortal Amrit is the super jewel called knowledge. Or that is why I call it the Jnana Sagara Manthana. When Suras and Asuras, that means they cover the spectrum of values. In research, they cover the spectrum of the body of knowledge. When they handle a subject in its entirety from the ocean of knowledge, what emerges is the wisdom for which you want to understand practically, theoretically, and doctrinally. I invite you to come to the sea, or at least spend time with the seafarers. So on that note, truly, India is a story of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And that's not simply a language to say we are one, world is one family. Indians sailed to prove it. So let me tell you, maybe you know this story. In the month of November on Kartik Purnima, young girls from the state of Odisha sail, not what is seen on the slide, sail plantain leaf made boats with a lamp on it. And dear ladies and gentlemen and elders, if that plantain leaf had the ability to be seaworthy, do you know where it will reach? The island of Bali. So our ancient forefathers and mariners from the turn of the Common Era, 3rd century before Common Era to the 1st century CE, the Sadabas of Odisha sailed at the turn in the month of November when the monsoons would change from the southeast monsoon to the southwest monsoon to the northeast monsoons. They would sail all the way to the present day Sri Lanka, cross the equatorial region, catch the equatorial cross current, land off Sumatra, do a coastal passage, reach the island of Bali, which celebrates the Indian culture even today. What is fascinating is when the Sadabas were returning from Bali, there is a similar festival of Boit Bandhana which is in Odisha on Kartik Purnima, they have a Boit Bandhana equivalent festival, the boat festival, and that talks about the Indian cultural context that has come. This is the first of my 4 stories in brief. I'm hoping to just trigger your interest to dig deeper, and maybe if you find it fascinating, we'll be happy to return. The second story, briefly mentioned by Hanuman Chowdary Garu, was about the solars. Now, by this time, this is just a map, an artificial rendition of the kind of passages that the Indian ships would have taken. And you see the regions that we covered, okay, all across. So if we jump many centuries forward to the 11th century, in the heydays of the solars, in the southern parts of the east coast of India, Indian maritime trade was flourishing to the southeast. In fact, it traversed the entire Indian Ocean. But for the solars, the Suvarnadurg, Swarnabhumi, present day Singapore, Borneo, Malaya region, the trade was very significant. We talk of Malacca Strait today. We have been operating there for centuries, okay, if not millennia. What was the threat? There was a roadblock to this trade in the early 11th century in the form of maritime piracy. It reached such an extent that Rajendra Chola had to launch a multi-dimensional, large volume naval expedition to go and attack those who were loyal defenders of the maritime pirates who were affecting. So the Chola expedition of 1025 indicates a historical legacy of maritime and naval power. That was not the only naval battle. There were many other battles. Friends, it is very often said, sometimes in a positive manner, but sometimes in a very demeaning manner, India is a pacifist country. We never conquered everyone. True. That's what history says. I don't agree. When the world is threatened, when the neighborhood is threatened, India rises. Indian maritime power with the Cholas rose with military to defend. Nothing much different from about 51 years or 50 years ago, when India liberated against the humanitarian crisis that affected and created a birthed nation called Bangladesh today. So in the past, in the present, this is a journey. We are pacifist, but we don't sit when peace and good order are disturbed. We may not have aspirations of territorial annexations, but we definitely have aspirations of bringing peace and good order to the world. That's our legacy. Sadly, after the solars in the 12th and the 13th century, we reach a state what is traditionally, sorry, I missed this slide. So that's Rajendra Chola and his Chola expedition. Sadly, in the 12th and 13th century, some of the mercantile traders from India and some of the rulers started, becoming risk averse. So that is the period of Samudrollangana. And people say our religious scripts advocate, you will not cross the sea or you will lose your caste. Not that I don't agree that there are some places it is mentioned, but I personally feel it is not an accurate depiction of what is there. It talks about crossing the sea carries tremendous amount of risks. So in this period of 12th and 13th century, when the venture capital dried up, when the risk was higher and India was being attacked from many sides, especially in the north, some people, quoted this to say, don't cross the sea. But first, let me tell what happened. From the 7th century onwards to the 12th, the Arabs started increasing. In fact, Islam spreads across the entire Indian Ocean because of the maritime trade. By the 12th, 13th century, the Chinese Ming voyages come. So when we face challenges today, it is very easy to just look back and say it has happened in history. When we abandoned the region, others occupied it. But here is the tribute to Indian seafarers. Indian seafarers never stopped sailing. We continued going. We continued connecting. And the truth is, the maritime space may have declined, but it was not completely abandoned. And then we come to a stage, what often the Western scholars, call it the, so while we were talking in the period of Samudra Ullanghana, the Western scholars, or there was a papal bull when the Pope decides to take a line. We know McMahon line and Durand line. He makes a line. Spain go west, Portugal go east. The world belongs to you. And the scholars called it Age of Discovery. Now, to give credit to the Portuguese, for about 100 years, they were doing a lot of efforts and they had reached the southern coast of Africa. So finally, you have on 14th of May, 1498, I'll just momently just pause this, just temporarily stop sharing and I'll just resume. By 1498, we reach a stage where India seems to be paying the least attention to the maritime inheritance and legacy that we had. And when Vasco da Gama contacts the Samudri, and that whole region happens, Portuguese didn't come with very high noble intentions. You can read the story. It was my MSc dissertation about the native resistance. And so I'll just resume sharing. I just thought I'll draw that attention. So are we aware that while the Portuguese attacked, for about 100 years, the seafarers or the naval people of Malabar coast, and I'm proud to say my father was born in Malappuram district. I have visited that place. I visited Irangal. I lived in the north. My story, I don't have time, but it represents a major traversing of India. And I'm really grateful for that part. For about 100 years, the Malabar boatmen who took to arms and became the naval warriors, the Punyali Marakars, 4 of them, did not allow the Portuguese to settle down in Malabar. In fact, because of the oppression of the Adil Shahi in Goa, Timoji, a local chieftain, on a short-sighted vision, allows the Portuguese to settle down at Goa. And so they get a foothold, and that's a separate story of 350 plus years or 450 years of challenges over there. The Marakars did not let the Portuguese settle in Malabar. In fact, finally, when there is disagreement between the Samudri and the Kunyali Marakar, some people call it a betrayal. Kunyali Marakar 4 is captured in 1600, taken to Goa, cut into 4 parts, displayed over there, and that ends the Marakar or the Malabar resistance to that. My 4th story is the amazing saga, what we sometimes call the story of the Indian naval strategy. But the fact is, naval prowess, as by now you have understood, has existed for a few millennia. But the story is of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, who was a master of geography and terrain. His war fighting abilities range from mountains to the valleys. And as relevant to our stories, he understood the importance of the sea. The text, Jalameva Yasya Balameva Tasya. He who is victorious over the oceans is almighty and powerful. Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj built forts, developed forts, refurbished forts along the coast and island regions in present-day Konkan. We must see efforts, and I seek your contribution. I am in conversation with certain agencies. We must make this the symbols of the resistance. After 80 years of the Shivaji Maharaj, Sarkhel, Kanhoji, Angre became such an irritant in the English concept of operations, they labeled them the Angria pirates. The saga of Angre was made famous by the Navy when shortly after independence, it renamed its logistics base in Mumbai after the sea warrior, Sarkhel, Kanhoji, Angre. There are many more stories. I don't have time for that. The sagas of the Siddhis, Rani Abakka, Rani Umayama, Martand Hanuman Chaudhary Garu had mentioned, and the historical maritime saga of India is a fascinating exercise of naval power in the strategic interest of the country. Allow me to jump forward to the mid 19th century to the World War II. As I said, I've skipped a lot of things, but I have purpose for this. It was very clear that the transfer of our power would happen within a decade. So when World War II was declared, across the breadth of the spectrum, Indian political leaders encouraged Indians to join the Allied forces and be part of then the Royal Indian Navy. In 44, my father also joined by giving a wrong name and a wrong age and a wrong qualification, and he sailed for 2 years. In fact, my father was in the landing craft and they were on the way to Myanmar when Japan surrendered, and then he sailed on the same LCT to Egypt. During the World War, I've just given a representative picture on the slide. Indians operated, young Indian officers and sailors. Yes, what was mentioned, it is sad that it took 55 for an Indian chief of the Navy, but we did not stop building the Navy regardless of who the chief was. These young officers were sailing, and I'll give you some figures. From the North Atlantic to the Singapore Strait is 10,000 nautical miles. From the Arakan in Myanmar to Madagascar near Africa is 4,300 nautical miles. As a naval officer and as a navigator, I believe in strategic operations, you need a map. Look at this concept. 10,000 nautical miles by 4,000 nautical miles was the experience of young Indian officers and sailors, and they designed and built the Navy. With humble apologies, Atmanirbharta was the mantra of these young pioneers of the Indian Navy. They decided even before independence in their plan paper of Chowdary and others, India needed an aircraft carrier. India needed a strong Navy. And despite opposition, they kept on building, they kept on pushing, and different people supported in different. We may have, as a military person, I will not go into political ideologies, but as a nationalistic Indian, I'm proud of this pioneering naval people and the pioneering mercantile marine people, the Scindias and the others who built what is the Prowess today. So today, we have a complete, yes, it was mentioning the Royal Indian Naval Uprising. Here too, I have a very personal, I heard the story as a young 6-year-old from my father, because he participated in the Royal Indian Navy Uprising. And he tells me, you know, this certificate was given, discharged with disgrace from His Majesty's service. And you know what this young boys of 20 did? They tore up the certificate and threw it back at the officer who gave them. You know, that was the spirit of those times. In the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, what are we representing today? Indian Navy is the 4th largest Navy in the world. I know we are not as large as the US Navy, but we are a Navy of significance. We are a Navy of legacy. We are a Navy that has built its own nuclear submarine. In a few months, we will commission an Indian-built aircraft carrier. With a small, again, humble difference, I would appeal not to call the Andamans as unsinkable carriers, because it somehow gives us the idea we don't need a carrier. I know that was not the meaning, but you know, we need submarines, we need aircraft carriers, we need a strong Navy. When we built a naval ship, you are not just building a ship, you are creating an ecosystem of industries and people. Go to Cochin Shipyard, where the amount of subcontractors and people who are involved is fascinating. Shipping and naval resources must be the emphasis of a growing economic and resurgent India, because it does not just create a Navy, it creates a nation. That is one of my appeals that I have had. So in 2016, when the Prime Minister declared India's Sagar policy, security and growth for all in the region, we declared to the world our legacy from the past. We do not execute dominance, but we can defend ourselves. Even if it is the pandemic, we will send our Navy to give vaccines to countries. We will, you know, rise up when there's climate disaster, whether it is a tsunami in 2004 or any disaster relief in the neighborhood. we will do that. We, as a Navy veteran, I'm proud to have been part of the Navy that has built this nation for 75 years. So before we cast a closing perspective, let me share what lies ahead. What is the way ahead? We as a nation are regaining the ascendancy of a maritime spirit and maritime consciousness. The maritime industry in India is undergoing several changes, and we need to incorporate these changes with matters of accountability, transparency, and efficiency. We need to understand growth in sea power enables effective sovereignty. We need to be committed to developing the maritime competence that we have and we can build collaboratively in the region. Collaborative growth is what India has committed itself to. And that's my encouragement, never to give up. What is my take on the way forward? This is casting the way long back. Some of us will be around. India has committed to a zero emission policy, sustainability. And that's my first point. We must make a commitment to green shipping and blockchain technology, because that's the shipping economy of the future. And we must not only do that, we must adopt our Indian practice. We must pour money into maritime institutes, maritime research setups, and be a part of climate change mitigation. Thankfully, India in COP26, we have committed to this. You have to go and visit the oceans to see how badly it is polluted. Garbage patches in the ocean are larger than size of certain countries. And my third point is, let's bring the attention back to the coastal communities, because without them, we cannot sustain the maritime order of the future. So that's why we need to promote multi-sectoral maritime studies. And the lesson from the sea is that we are all interconnected in real life and in actuality at sea. There is a multi-dimensional collaborative approach where we have to be connected and not treat it as single sector undertaking. When I was doing my dissertation in the MSc part, when I looked at the Government of India structure, 16 different ministries were connected with the maritime region. Today, it has grown to 18. Imagine bringing coordination between 18 ministries. I'm so grateful to the government that we at least have appointed a maritime security assistant. No, I'm sorry, I'm mixing up the terms, but Admiral G. Ashok Kumar has been appointed to the National Security Secretariat for Maritime Security as a maritime security advisor. I want to in close express my thanks and gratitude to a few things. I want to be very grateful to the Lord Almighty and to my family for giving me the freedom to pursue my calling of the sea. Even today, I am sitting in the premises in Gandhinagar, in the premises of Gujarat Maritime University. And before this, I finished a talk and I'm saying, I am very grateful to have been part of the oceans. I thank my nation and particularly the Indian Navy for an amazing journey that I have had. I will not share the stories here, but I have had challenging assignments. I have had great fun. I have traveled the world. And when the situation was required, I was in the midst of operations. I'm not going to mention it here. I'm very grateful to Pragna Bharati, especially Padma Shri Hanuman Chowdary Garu and all the team for giving me this opportunity. Please allow my team and myself at Johnson Odakkal Initiatives to, at some future stage, add value to your ventures, support us, promote us, allow us to be nation builders along with you. Allow me to say this in closing. With the increase, and I will just stop sharing so that I can say this with a little more emphasis. With the increased focus on the maritime industry, India can change its growth trajectory to become a maritime sea power with a rich blue economy. We can build collaborative competence with other nations to achieve better connectivity. My appeal is to every Indian to recognize that you are part of a maritime nation. We on land forget that there is an ocean that covers 70% of the planet. And if you are a true believer, a person of faith, you know, life originated from the sea. You know, at least devotionally give value to the oceans. India is a maritime nation. It is time for us to reclaim our maritime prowess, which was there in the past, is in the present, and will build, in the words of Prime Minister, it will build the Amrit Kal of Sagar Mahotsav that lies in front. Jai Hind, Samno Varun.
Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson, for sharing your insights. That was really wonderful listening to you. We are really delighted to have learned so many things which we were not aware of before listening to you. That was really great. Thanks so much once again. And before we move on to the question answer session, I noticed that we have amongst us Dr. L.V. Subramaniam Garu, Governing Council member, Pragna Bharati, and also he had been the Chief Secretary of Government of Andhra Pradesh as well. Subramaniam Garu, please unmute yourself, and would you like to share your thoughts for a minute or two? We request.
Also give a chance to Dr. Neeta Khandpekar.
Sure,
Dr.
sir.
Neeta Khandpekar is there from
Sure,
Mumbai.
sure, sure, sir, will do.
Thank
Subramaniam Garu.
Thank you, Mr. Chandrasekhar, for
Welcome, sir.
an opportunity to get onto the screen and greet Sri Johnson. It was an excellent presentation. It was a very nice chronicle of where we were millions of years ago. And I love the way in which you integrated your thoughts with some mythological beliefs that are dominating in all our minds. The point I just wanted to raise is that with such a long coastline that is available in India, the potential for trade is only seen, but the potential for surfing, the potential for holidaying, the potential for sea exploration, sea mining, various of these activities, we really don't know what is happening, because we always have this fear that the defense requirements are predominantly important for us than the other developments in the country. Could you throw some light on this, Mr. Johnson? Thank you.
Thank you for sir, for those questions. In fact, you allowed me to share a line from my book, Timeless Wake. I've written in the prologue. And if you have ever visited Mumbai and Chowdary, I'm a Mumbaikar now, so permit me to give praise to my adopted city. So I had written this line: in many nations of the world, people go to the seaside to sail, swim, and surf. We go to the pani ke kinare. We go to the pani kinare to have pani puri. Our whole idea of seafaring experience is somehow go to the beach and just get a little wet and play this thing. But sir, the fact is, beyond the lightness, my mentor, my guru, the Indian Maritime Icon, late Vice Admiral MPhil, who was the founder chairperson of Maritime History Society, which I had the honor to be there for 6 years. He promoted the idea. When he was in training in England, he saw a book on Joshua Slocum attempting to do a world passage. And just only about 80 people have done circumnavigation of the world alone in a sailboat. It took him many years till Dilip Donde, now Captain Dilip Donde, did a circumnavigation of the world, followed by Abhilash Tomi, who did it non-stop, and 6 women, Indian women naval officers in Navika Sagar Parikrama did it, where the Prime Minister was interacting. Abhilash Tomi nearly lost his life till the collective ability of the Indian Ocean rescued him. Why I'm saying this? you are right, it is not popular. It's not about military. In fact, actually, military, army and navy promote sailing. It was Admiral Auti's dream that when Maritime History Society celebrates 50 years, that will be in 2028. Can we have an international regatta? I am willing to sail today. I mean, I'm willing to stop all business and job if you tell me I can sail. And why shouldn't we sail? Yes, it is risky. There are dangers involved, but a good seafarer will overcome. I believe it is more fascinating than rock climbing, or I'm not against them, but you go to see, you are one with nature. Very briefly, someone was talking, we talked all serious things, just on a lighter note. Shadow puppetry originated at sea. When they were night, they would say, they will against the lamp and they will show actions and against the sea is fascinating. So, sir, there is one challenge which is not about people not going to sea. Everything maritime is very high budget, because whether you're doing boat maintenance, the fishermen community, we have an amazing tradition of shipbuilding in India. But when you look at today, those people, maestries who are building, their numbers are declining. There will be no one left to build those ships, the dhows and the thing. Can we actually use this forum? One part, I'll be delighted. The second is a bonus. Can we just adopt one of the traditional shipbuilding yards, whether at Mandvi, whether at Bepur, whether at Thoothukudi, and encourage them, make the state tourism mascot to be an Indian-built indigenous ship? Okay. And as a bonus, please promote sailing, encourage people to sail, give money to tourism department, make it mandatory. That I'm sorry, I'm going beyond my mandate. But what I'm trying to say is that is in our DNA. We just need to re-recognize it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Subramanian Garu, and thanks to Dr. Johnson as well. Now, may I request Dr. Neeta Khandpekar from Mumbai University. Please, ma'am, would you like to share your thoughts in a minute or two? Dr. Neeta Khandpekar.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, it was so nice. Commodore Johnson sent me this invitation in the morning. I was in the university at that time and I immediately motivated my students to join. Some of them are here. Very nicely, sir gave a very good historical backdrop. And of course, I have been listening to Odakkal Johnson, sir, during whole of the lockdown time. And he keeps motivating our maritime students. And very nice effort by your organization. And sir, rightly, as a teacher myself, I'm motivating my students to look at sea, look at land towards sea. Always we look at land only. So go to sea, and from sea you look at land. So that kind of interaction at a small level with my PG students I'm doing. And of late, I have been very much interested in mangroves, coastal area things. And as sir said, mangrove tourism is also now gaining ground with a very nice institute in Airoli, Mumbai. The Maharashtra government has done a very nice small sanctuary and encouraging crowds to look at the flamingos and the mangrove cultivation. So nice planning by you all. That's all. Good work.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thanks so much. Now, a small request to all the members who are attending. If you want to interact with Dr. Johnson by asking any question, please raise your hand on your device so that we can see and take you online, so that you will have an opportunity to ask your question. Now, I request Shri Balaji Garu from our Pragna Bharati Executive Committee to please handle the question answer session. Balaji Garu, please go ahead and handle the session, sir.
Sure. Thank you, Chandrasekhar Garu. I think we have one. I'm not able to make out his name because it's just mentioned as iPad.
Okay.
Could I request that gentleman to ask his question? He's put it on the chat box. Otherwise, I'll like to read it for.
Yeah,
I
I
can
can
read
see.
it. I
Yeah.
can read it if you. It's okay. I'll respond.
Yes, sir.
So,
Please
so
go
the
ahead,
question,
sir.
question related to my comment about Andaman and Nicobar Islands, and in some of the strategic writings, it tends to be, this is one of the challenge in academics. We create terms and we don't realize the consequences of those terms. And so we use this term called it's an unsinkable carrier to say that the aircraft can stage through it, which is true. But unfortunately, the moment you say that, there is a text or subplot which says you don't need carriers, you have one Andaman. In fact, the Indian Navy for many decades ago had promoted the idea of the southernmost island, that region, to be made into an airstrip. INS Bars has been made there and it is operating. And so the Indian military, along with the full support of the government of India, and even currently, there is a full-fledged tri-services command in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. And there is no doubt about the importance. But that is one location. So the concept of bases we have done in 2-3 ways as an answer to the question. Along with our own islands, India has signed MOUs with many other nations along the Indian Ocean littoral. And it is permitted, you don't need advance notice. If you are deployed in a mission-based deployments, at a short notice, you can go across and do a logistical turnaround. So that agreement you don't have to come back to the Indian base, or you don't need a replenishment tanker for the naval ships. And because of that, during the Yemen crisis, very quickly, the ship, which was Sumega, which was deployed in the Andaman, was able to turn around and come and undertake evacuation of ships from Yemen. So that's the advantage. We have agreements with various people. We don't have an Indian naval base in other countries, but we have a good understanding. And when there is a requirement of a logistic turnaround, Indian Navy has made the arrangements, and we are not restricted by the requirement to come back to India. So I hope that gives a good answers your question, sir.
Great. Okay. I think we will go to B.S. Sharma Garu. Sharma Garu. B.S. Sharma Garu, please ask your question.
Namaste, Johnson sir. We liked your passion for the subject on the subject, very inspiring. So my question is, any special maritime laws we have to prevent the seas from pollution or becoming a dustbins nowadays? Any special laws we have, how they are implemented?
Thank you, Sharma Garu, for your question. Not just India. In fact, long before sustainability became a topic of interest, one of the early climate change, it's one of the things I'm teaching at a particular course at the. Yeah. So on the marine pollution side, it just started with the simple ideas: don't throw oil into the sea because it harms the sea, but it covers garbage. It covers to the degree I was saying that when you ship becomes light, you have to take water in ballast tanks. Then they realize that if you take water in one particular region and you discharge it another place which is endangered, that will cause damage. So there are regulations of recycling and doing components. Now these regulations exist, but like before the Swachh Bharat scheme, we have this aberrant throw the kachra from my place to outside the place so that my house is clean. Unfortunately, this tendency exists, and it's a major challenge. In fact, there is a great garbage patch in the Pacific Ocean, which is, they say, it's all scientists say it's larger than France. That is the size of thing, and it is killing the oceans. The impact of carbonification and pollution means, sea is a very delicate ecosystem. We talk of tidal ranges, which are 6-hourly. We talk of lunar cycles, which are 28 days. In the Indian system, we understand yugas and, in many, many years. Are you aware in the oceans, there are oceanic cycles of 1,000 years? that's the kind of delicate balance the oceans are. And when the temperature rises, when carbonification increases, when you throw garbage, this cycle gets disturbed. And you have places where they should not have been rain in a season and you find storms happening. So laws exist. The challenge is implementation of laws, because you can, the Coast Guard patrols in Indian waters and we fine people. What do you do beyond the high seas? Because those regions are difficult to patrol. So education is undertaken. Pollution laws exist. We have endorsed them, but that's the part.
Sir, we have our chairman, Hanuman Chowdary Gari, who wants to say a few words to you, followed by Sudhir Dongare. The last question, I guess.
Now, you see, there is a island called Neil Island in Nicobar. You know who that Neil was? He was a colonel who butchered so many people in 1857. His statue was put up in Chennai and the people rebelled against it. It was to be pulled down. Finally, it was taken away and put in a museum. There is also one street in Lucknow, which is also called Neil Street, near Lucknow cantonment. Now, why not we change this name, that butcher fellow of 1857, Neil Island, and some other names, the British names that are given to the Nicobar Islands must be changed to Indian names. I written to the Prime Minister and others. I just wanted to mention this. Neil Island,
Sure, sir. I think,
NIEL.
yeah, that initiative is already in progress, and I think sometimes only problem is sometimes, sir. Admiral Nadkarni, when he was alive, told me a very funny story. When someone proposed that the survey ship should be named Investigator, people thought he was a foreigner. They forgot that Captain Investigator was an Indian Parsi. So, sometimes, we need to get the story right. But I agree with you. There is no need to celebrate others when we have enough stories in our country to commemorate. I agree with you, sir.
Champakla Pillai, he also was a great shipping initiative.
Okay, Sudhir Dongare, please.
Yes, sir. My voice is clear, sir.
Very clear.
Yes, loud and audible.
Okay. Okay. Hello, Johnson, sir. I had attended the Indian Maritime Summit that was organized in 2021, and I had seen you were anchoring there. And I had listened that the Indian government set up the policy that India will be global shipbuilding leader by the 2030. But I had also read some days ago the newspaper, the article says that the article was on Chinese shipbuilding, and it was saying that within 1 year they are building 70 plus ships within a year, and most of them were warships, and their shipbuilding policy was rightly set up after the 1949. And as you look, our policy, shipbuilding policy from 2021 to 2030, it is a time that can aim will achievable, or we need any long-term planning. That is my question.
Thank you for your question, Sudhir. As always, your encouragement. The document you are referring to is Maritime India Vision 2030. And but it doesn't say we will become the leader. It's a very realistic document. Sometimes we can make impossible claims and not achieve it. It says that we will come within the top 10 today, and the address is not about just simple shipbuilding. What has happened is when India attained independence, and shortly after that, India was a significant player in the mercantile marine, and Indian registered ships used to carry. Now, wherever the ship may be built, people stop registering in India, UK, and all the major places due to tax, and they went to tax holiday countries like Monrovia, Liberia. And so you find Indian registered ships became very, very small. And we recently had celebrated the founder of Indian Register of Shipping, who celebrated 100 years. So the point is, as a mix of encouraging registration as well as encouraging green ship field, the number of shipyards that have been commissioned in India are great. The challenge is, you also have to have orders. So one of my encouragements is, instead of 2030, if we cast a vision a little further ahead, and we say 50 years from now, we keep talking and comparing about China. Do you know China had a 100-year plan in 1949? I was so thrilled that in Parliament at this Amrit Mahotsav, we were talking of Amritkal at least 25 years aage tak baat kar rahe hain. You know, we need to think in longer cycles, and then not invest in technology of today, but start. If even in 20, say, if you go to 25 years from now, it is 2047. Today's young passing out graduate will be a senior person over there. He can't learn. That means you have to invest in the education sector today. You have to invest in the engineering college today. Then tomorrow you will be the world leader. It's education sector does not give return on investment in 2 years and 3 years. You know, knowledge investment is over much longer period, and that will enable India to regain its ascendancy. In the short run, let's be realistically, with the reverse engineering China has done, with all the no respect to IPR laws and all that, they will remain ahead. But we don't have to worry about today. Let's look further. Indians have a lot of patience. Let us be patient to have the long game. Instead of 100 meters split by Usain Bolt, let us run the marathon race and win it. So that's my take, sir.
Thank you.
The last few minutes, I think Hanuman Chowdary garu wants to share something on the screen for you. That's one thing, followed by, we don't have any more questions, and followed by Rajesh Kumar's thanks, vote of thanks, sir.
Rajesh, Hanuman Chaudhary garu, I think you are muted, sir. We can't hear you, sir. Please unmute yourself.
Unmute. Can you hear now?
Yes.
Yeah. This is a book, The 100-Year Marathon, China's Secret Strategy to Replace America as the Global Superpower. This is a wonderful book. This should be read by people. If he has not already read, Dr. Johnson should read this. The 100-Year Marathon, 2049, 1949, Mao Zedong established the communist regime. So
Yes.
2049, China will be the superpower, sole superpower, the Chinese order. That is their plan. That's called 100-year marathon. Thank you.
Sir, Colonel John,
Myself,
Commodore
Prince
Johnson,
Murray. Thank you.
Commander
Commodore.
Vijay Vadhera.
Yeah.
Commander Vijay Vadhera, followed by Rajesh Kumar.
Oh, good. Commander Vijay Vadhera.
Commander Vadhera, are you there? Please ask your question. You have raised your hand. Commander Vijay Vadhera.
Just to unmute.
His audio is not connected, it seems.
Oh, has he?
Can you hear us, Commodore Vijay Vadhera?
Okay.
Pass on to somebody.
Okay. Rajesh Kumar garu. I think we'll go ahead. The time is also coming close.
Yes.
We have to.
The wonderful session by Commodore Dr. Johnson Odakkal ji, and I thank him very much, and giving us a good insights about Indian maritime and naval history, as it has not just started 100 years back or 50 years back, 1919 or 22, but it is from way billions of years where India itself started sailing. That's a wonderful thing to actually think of our sailing expeditions or our maritime expeditions. And it is very grateful. We all are grateful to you, sir, And I've given this opportunity to thank you all the people those who participated in this program, especially from Reda Samhita for her Vande Mataram, Padma Shri Dr. Hanuman Chowdary Garu for his opening remarks, and entire Pragna Bharati team, Chandrasekhar ji, Dheeraj, Balaji Garu, and Shirish ji for giving us a good start of insights about the Pragna Bharati and this 30 years of journey, all these things. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all, and we'll be keep on connecting this kind of a programs, and we encourage you to subscribe to our Facebook, Twitter, our social media accounts, so that we'll be in touch and we'll be knowing the things ahead. And thank you very much to everyone. Thank you, sir.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you so much, sir. Bharat Mata ki.
Bharat Mata ki Jai.
Jai.
That's what I-
Jai Hind.
Jai.
Jai Hind.